Today, we will discuss the recent riot incident in New Caledonia. Before delving into the chronology, let's review the events that occurred a few days before the riots broke out. The French Parliament proposed a new constitutional law allowing French residents who have lived in New Caledonia for 10 years to participate in provincial elections. This means not only citizens, but also immigrants who have resided for 10 years can vote, even if they are not yet citizens. On May 15, 2024, the French Parliament approved this law, potentially adding about 25,000 people to the voter list, in line with the number of French residents in New Caledonia. The law is controversial because it contradicts the Noumea Agreement signed in 1998, which froze the voter list since 2007, and established that only French citizens living in New Caledonia before 1998 are recognized as permanent citizens. The Noumea Agreement, designed to grant greater political autonomy to New Caledonia and organize 3 referendums on the future of the territory, is considered a significant step towards civil peace. The indigenous people of New Caledonia, the Kanak tribe, strive to avoid becoming a minority in their own land, similar to experiences in Australia and the United States, where indigenous people became minorities after colonization by white settlers. The new law proposed by France is seen as favoring French citizens living in New Caledonia by allowing those who have settled for 10 years to participate in local elections. It is considered a violation of the Noumea Agreement and could potentially weaken the voice of the native Kanak population, who fear losing their sovereignty and independence if French citizens are granted voting rights. The Kanak tribe, although subject to France, wants to lead their own land, and has long opposed the French government due to a history of colonization. The riots in New Caledonia on May 20, 2024 were a reaction to the new law proposed by France. The riots lasted several days and resulted in 6 deaths, including 2 police officers and hundreds of others injured. Foreign tourists were evacuated by air, and about 200 people were arrested. The New Caledonian government declared a state of emergency on May 22, 2024. French President Emmanuel Macron visited New Caledonia to calm the tense political situation. He decided not to impose the controversial voting reforms for the time being, and promised to further analyze the situation. To prevent further riots, 3,000 police troops were deployed to the region. After the situation began to calm down, the debris from the riots was cleared, and on May 28, 2024, France lifted the state of emergency in New Caledonia, although a curfew was still imposed as a precautionary measure. A report from The Diplomat mentioned that the riots were not only caused by the proposed law, but also by France's failure to create fair conditions for the independence referendum in 2021. The referendums conducted in 2018, 2020, and 2021 showed increasing support for independence. In 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic affected the referendum process, and the independence movement called for a boycott, resulting in 54% abstention votes and 96% votes to remain with France. However, this referendum is considered morally and politically flawed because the majority of the native Kanak population and independent groups did not participate. The French government and loyalist parties refused to acknowledge issues with the third referendum and argued that the people of New Caledonia had chosen to remain with France. This indicates political maneuvering by France, which wants to maintain control over New Caledonia despite the majority of the population wanting independence. The history of New Caledonia, as part of French territory, began when British explorer James Cook discovered the region on September 4, 1774, and named it Caledonia. In 1853, France officially took over the territory under Napoleon III, and the native Kanak people suffered, forced to work on French-owned plantations and farms. This triggered the first rebellion in New Caledonia in 1878. Initially, the region was used by France as a penal colony. From 1864 to 1879, France sent convicts and political prisoners to New Caledonia, similar to the British practice of sending criminals to Australia. In 1896, France brought European settlers to New Caledonia to explore mineral resources, including large nickel reserves, which are now among the largest in the world, competing with Australia, Brazil, Russia, and Indonesia. After World War II in 1946, France made New Caledonia one of its 12 overseas territories. These territories, including Guadeloupe, Martinique, and others, including New Caledonia, although having their own government, still had to submit to France. New Caledonia currently has special economic rights and a division of sovereignty according to the Noumea Agreement, which allows the native tribe to elect their own leaders.